僕ですか？
When I was 18 years old, I saw for the first time in my life, I saw a vision of clarity. I saw a comic strip, a 3-panel comic strip. As simple as it seemed, changed my being, changed who I am, made me who I am. Enlightened. The strip, Garfield. The comic strip was new, no more than maybe a month and a half since inception, since coming into existence. And there it was before me in print. I saw it, a comic strip. What was it called? Garfield. The story here is of a man, a plain man. He is John, but he is more than that. I will get to this later. But first, let us just say he is John, a plain man. And then there is a cat, Garfield. This is the nature of the world here. When I see the world, the politics, the future, the satellites in space, and the people who put them there, you can look at everything as a man and a cat. Two beings in harmony and at war. So the strip I saw about this man, John, and the cat, Garfield, you see, yes, it is about everything. This little comic is, lo and behold, not so little anymore. So yes, when I was 18, I saw this comic, and it hit me all at once, its power. I clipped it, and every day I looked at it, and I said, okay, let me look at this here. What is this doing to me? Why is this so powerful? John Arbuckle, he sits here, legs crossed, comfortable in his home, and he reads his newspaper. The news of the world, perhaps. And then he extends his fingers lightly, delicately. He taps his fingers on an end table and he feels for something. What is it? It is something he needs, but it is not there. And then he looks up, slightly cockeyed, and he thinks. His newspaper in his lap now, and he thinks this. Now where could my pipe be? This. I always come to this because I was a young man. I'm older now. And I still don't have the secrets, the answers. So this question still rings true. John looks up and he thinks, now where could my pipe be? And then it happens. You see it. You see, it's almost like divine intervention. Suddenly, it is there and it overpowers you. A cat is smoking a pipe. It is the man's pipe. It's John's pipe. But the cat, this cat Garfield, is smoking the pipe. And from afar and from someplace near but not clear, near but not clear, the man calls out. John calls out. He is shocked. Garfield! He shouts. Garfield, the cat's name. But let's take a step back. Let us examine this from all sides, all perspectives. And when I first came across this comic strip, I was at my father's house. The newspaper had arrived and I picked it up for him and brought it inside. I organized his sections for him and then, yes, the comic strips section fell out from somewhere in the middle and landed on the kitchen floor. I picked up the paper pages and saw up somewhere near the top of this strip. Just like John, I too was wearing an aquamarine shirt. So I thought, interesting. I'll have to see to this later. I snipped out the little comic and held on to it. And 5 days later, I re-examined. I needed to find out more about this. The information I had was minimal, but enough. An orange cat named Garfield. Okay, that seemed to be the linchpin of this whole operation. And yes, another clue, a signature in the bottom right corner, a man's name. Jim Davis. Yes, I'm onto it for sure. So, 1, Garfield, orange cat. And 2, Jim Davis, the creator of this cat. And that curiously plain man. I did not know at the time that his name was John. The strip, you see, had no mention of this man's name, and I'd never seen it before. But I had these clues. Jim Davis, Garfield. And then I saw more. I spotted the tiny copyright mark in the upper left corner. Copyright 1978 to... what is this? Copyright belongs to a Paws Incorporated. I used the local library and mail services to track down the information I was looking for. Jim Davis, a cartoonist, created a comic strip about a cat, Garfield, and a man, John Arbuckle. Well, from that point on, I made sure I read the Garfield comic strips. But as I read each one, as each day passed, the strips seemed to resonate with me less and less. I sent letters to Paws Incorporated, long letters, pages upon pages, asking if Mr. Jim Davis could somehow publish just the one comic over and over again. It would be meditative, I wrote. The strength of that. Could you imagine? But no response. The strips lost their power, and eventually I stopped reading, but I did not want my perceptions diluted, so I vowed to read the pipe strip over and over again. That is what I call it, the pipe strip. The pipe strip. Everything about it is perfect. I can only describe it as a miracle creation. Something came together. The elements aligned. It's like the comics, the cosmic orchestra that is up there over your head. The immense, enormous void is working all for one thing, to tell you one thing. Gas and rock and purity and nothing. I will say this. When I see the pipe strip, every single tile I look at the lines, colors, and shapes that make up the 3-panel comic, I see perfection. Do I find perfection in many things? Some things, I would say. Some things are perfect. But this is one of them. I can look at the little tuft of hair on John Arbuckle's head. It is the perfect shade. The purple pipe in Garfield's mouth. How could a mere mortal even make this? I have a theory about Jim Davis. After copious research, and yes, of course, now we have the internet, and this information is all readily available, but Jim Davis, he used his life experiences to influence his comic. Like I mentioned before, none of them seem to have the weight of the pipe strip. But you have to wonder about the man who is able to even just once create the perfect form, a literally flawless execution of art, brilliance. Just isn't a word. I think there's a spiritual element. I've seen my share of bad times, and when you have something, well, it's just emotions and neurons in your brain, but something tells you that it's the truth. Truth's radiant light. Garfield the cat? Neurons in my brain, it's harmony, you see. John and Garfield, it's truly harmony, like a continuous, looping, everlasting harmony. The lavender chair, the brown end table, the salmon-colored wall, the forest green carpet, and Garfield is hunched, perched, perhaps with the pipe stuck firmly between his jowls. His tail curls around.
Double points.
It's more than shapes, too, because Okay, stay with me. I've done this experiment several times. You take the strip, trace only the basic elements. You can do anything. You can simplify the shapes down to just blobs, just outlines, but it still makes sense. You can replace the blobs with magazine cutouts of other things. Replace John Arbuckle with a car parked in a driveway sideways. Cut that out of a magazine, stick it in. Replace him there in the second panel with a food processor. Okay. And then we put a picture of the planet in the third panel over Garfield. It still works. These are universal proportions. I don't know How best to explain why it works? I've studied the pipe strip and analyzed John and Garfield's proportions against several universal mathematical constants. E, pi, the golden ratio, the Feigenbaum constants, and so on. And it's surprising, scary even, how things align. You can take just tiny pieces of the pipe strip, for instance. Take John's elbow from the second panel, and take that and project it back over John's entire shape in the second panel, and you'll see a near-perfect Fibonacci sequence emerge. It's eerie to me. And it makes you wonder if you are in the presence of a deity, if there is some larger hand at work. There's no doubt in my mind that Jim Davis is a smart man. Jim Davis is capable of anything, to me. He is remarkable. But this is so far beyond that. I think we might see that this work of art is revered and respected in years to come. Jim Davis is possibly a new master of the craft, a genius of the eye. They very well may say the same things about Jim Davis in 500 years that we say about the great philosophical and artistic masters from centuries ago. Jim Davis is a modern-day Socrates, Da Vinci, mixing both striking visual beauty with classical, daring, unheard-of intellect. Look, he combines these things to make profoundly simple expressions. This strip is his masterpiece. The pipe strip is his masterpiece. And it is a masterpiece into... I often look at Garfield's particular pose in the strip. He is poised and statuesque, and his cat stare is reminiscent of the fiery gazes often found in religious iconography. But still his eyes are playful, lying somewhere between the solemn father's expression in Rembrandt's Return of the Prodigal Son and the coy smirk of Da Vinci's St. John the Baptist. His ears stick up, signifying a piqued readiness. It's as if he could at any moment pounce. He is, after all, a close relative and descendant of the mighty jungle cats of Africa that could leap after prey. You could see the power drawn into Garfield's hindquarters, powerful haunches indeed. The third panel. And I'm just saying this now, this is just coming to me now. The third panel of the pipe strip is essentially a microcosm for the entire strip itself. All the power dynamics, the struggle for superiority, right? Who has the pipe? Where is the pipe? All of that is drawn, built, layered into Garfield's iconic pose here. You can see it in the curl of his tail. Garfield's ear whiskers stick up on end. The smoke billows upward, drawing the eye upward. Increasing scope. I'm just amazed. Really. That after 33 years of reading and analyzing the same comic strip, I'm able to find new dimensions. It's a testament to the work. For 6 years, I delved into tobacco research because, can a cat smoke? This is a metaphysical question. Yes. Can any cat smoke? No. Can just Garfield smoke? The research says no. Nicotine poisoning can kill animals, especially household pets. All it takes is the nicotine found in as little as a single cigarette. Surely John's pipe holds a substantial amount of tobacco. And it is true that pets living in the homes of smokers are nearly 25% more likely to develop some form of cancer, most likely due to cigarette smoke. But these are facts of smoking, its tolls on our world. But after visiting 2 tobacco processing plants in Virginia and the Philip Morris cigarette manufacturing facility, I came no closer to cracking the meaning. I was looking for any insight. A detective of a homicide case has to look at every angle, so I'm always taking apart the pipe. I focused on every minutia, every detail of this strip. John Arbuckle's clothing. I have records. I'm an expert in textiles, so you see, the smoking thing was a hang-up. It was the statement. Until... This is key. This is the breakthrough. The pipe is not a pipe. Obviously, there is symbolism. I saw that from the beginning, and I looked at the literal aspects of the strip to gain insight into the metaphors at play. I worked at a newspaper printing press for 18 months in the late 1980s. I was learning the literal to inform the gestural, the subliteral, the in-between. John reading the newspaper means so much more than just John reading the newspaper. But how could you ever hope to decipher the puzzle without knowing everything there is to know about newspapers? Okay, for example, John holds his paper up with his left hand, thumb gripping the interior. I learned that this particular grip here is the newspaper grip of 19th century aristocrats. And this aristocrat grip was a point of contention that influenced the decision to move forward with prohibition in the United States in the early 20th century. So John's hand position is much more than that, isn't it? It was a comment on class war and the resulting reactionary culture. But I didn't know about the aristocratic newspaper grip until I came across some microfiche archives at the printing press. It's about information. You have to take it apart. And the breakthrough on the smoking cat came late. Just 8 years ago, actually. Smoking cat is an industry term. It's what the smoking industry calls a tattletale teenager who tells on his friends after they've all tried smoking for the first time. It was actually a foreign translation, bastardization of the term smoking rat. But the phrase was confused when secret documents went back and forth between China and America. These documents are still secret, and the only reason I know about the term is because I know a man. Cat with a metaphorical pipe that did not work. Are you starting to see the layers here? This is exciting stuff. You start to get a whole picture here, and it informs the work. It's just remarkable. Jim Davis took these raw ideas, these pieces, and he transformed them into smart social commentary that is also ravishingly beautiful. I have cried. I've cried, I've cried. I've cried over this piece. It just gets into my soul. I try to explain this to people. I have the newspaper articles about Ernie Barguckle. People have fought about this. They don't see it, or they are closed-minded. How can a comic strip about a cat smoking a pipe mean any more than that? But it is more. And when I feel spiritual or start to think existentially, I still see this comic. Here is something from 1981 that I wrote in thinking about the implications of this strip. This is just an excerpt here. There's more before and after, but this part is the essence to me. If a comic about a cat smoking a pipe can be the only thing in the universe, then maybe this is the strongest evidence for that. Many of you say, "Oh, but I am not blind. I have never been blind." But when you truly see, you will understand just how truly blind you once were to even think it right to say you were not blind. What does a blind man see? Blackness, darkness, blankness, black darkness, dark blankness, the absence of things, quite literally no thing, no things, nothing, nothings. So you see nothing, and I bring you into the light. A cat has your pipe. You've been blind, do you understand this? The cat has your pipe. You can't fully immerse yourself. You don't have the light. You don't have the radiance, the radical light, the radically radiant light of truth and truth's belonging love and nature of light and loving truthful radiance. So don't be bold and make bold statements. I know of you. The cat has your pipe. The cat has your pipe. Remember that. That writing, well, it's kind of rough. Kind of an early 80s feel. And I see that, but I'm still proud of it. Sometimes I imagine that it is the editorial column in the newspaper John Arbuckle is reading. It's an exercise in recursion. It's like a vortex opens up. It's like you hold two mirrors up to each other. One is reality and the other is a cartoon strip. Let's see. Oh yes. I must bring this up because I think surely Jim Davis is again speaking on multiple levels by including the details set before us in the comic. Notice the glimpse of John Arbuckle's foot in the first panel. The size of the shoe would indicate that maybe the man just has small feet. But a deeper investigation takes us to the foot-binding rituals of certain Asian cultures. Inflicted usually on women for the desire of men, its practice was incredibly painful and crippling. Mr. Davis is here presenting us with a man, or rather, man, who engages in foot binding, a body modification for women, on top of being without his pipe or impotent. This is a man facing extreme inner turmoil. The panels tell that story subconsciously. Notice the background wall shading of the first panel points inward toward John, the second. And the sharp, tapered end of the purple pipe in the third frame also points at John in the second panel, inward. The eye is drawn to the center panel. You can connect these points and draw a triangle across the panels, and this triangle will align with the reoriented points of John's collar. This is majestic artwork. And to uncover this hidden order is a place like a comfort. I can't help but read the thought bubble again and again. Now, where could my pipe be? Now, where could my pipe be? It is a profound question. Why am I here? What is my purpose? It is reflection, self-examination here. It is facing the dust, the misery of a cold, careless universe. You can feel the weight of it. Where could my pipe be? One imagines the author Jim Davis nearly teetering on the edge of insanity. His rationality, his lucidity hovering over the void. And he seeks the truth. You can see it in the line quality of the drawings, the thoughtful, full outlines mixed with the occasional chaotic scribbles that lurk in the shadows and Garfield's dark stripes. It's almost as if Garfield is chaos himself. Yes, he is the embodiment of chaos. Disorder, hatred, fear, thievery, death, destruction, desolation. These are the things Garfield represents. He stole the pipe. He sits with his back to John Garfield. Garfield, this chaos cat Garfield has turned his back on everything, everyone. One recalls the great existential forces in literature. Camus, Meursault, Kafka's Gregor Samsa, or Sartre's Antoine Roquentin. Garfield the cat sees the hopelessness of life, which... This is why Jim Davis has chosen smoking. It represents a recklessness, a disregard for what some would define as the beauty of life. Garfield may die from the nicotine. He may not. He defies life. He sits defiant, saying nothing, but looking as if he could say, "Then let me die." It does not matter. It does not matter. And we're faced with this. Could John behave the same? Is John the glimmer of hope? He seems to be unsure. Again, his question. Now, where could my pipe be? Indicates that he's wrestling with his own existence. The center panel centers the issue, and again, this harkens to many of the great religious works of art. Talking about the pipe strip in relation to religion. It's interesting to assign the roles of God and anti-God, or as many know him, the devil, or on a much larger scale, simply the forces of good and evil. Garfield, the thief cat, evil and malicious. He is the devil, placed to the right. And note the two forms of John. John on the left, still innocent, still draped in the light of the lack of knowledge. He is the humans in the Garden of Eden. He feels for his pipe, but he is yet to be Garfield, the sinister serpent. And notice how Jim Davis has framed this. The center John is locked in a struggle between his innocence and knowledge of the truth, knowledge of the existence of evil. It is stunning. The great struggle, the struggle that transcends time. Jim Davis floats over all of this as creator, God of sorts, in his own right. And he presents this cautionary message to us all. It is as if he is speaking from high, and he is saying unto our awaiting ears, where will you be when Hollywood movies in some nations can spend feeding their starving people. Torture, distrust, look around, overwhelmed. What can you do? And every day I look in the mirror and I hold this comic up to the mirror and I look into the mirror and at this little comic strip. I'm humble, thankful. It is a reminder to be respectful. You are a statue. You are fragile. And when you break, when you shatter, where will those pieces go? Ask. Ask. ask this question. Will you ask? Humankind is only as great as you. You, the individual. It begins and ends with you. You must treat this expedition, this search, this life with a reverence and intensity found only in the smallest sticks, the littlest leaf, the tiniest stone, the most minuscule grain of sand on a beach of billions. This is the secret. Do you want the pipe? Do you want to know where the pipe has gone? You ask yourself. You ask. You ask.